Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to talk about drop downs. Drop downs are similar to sliders, which I have talked about in the last video of this series, in the sense that they are a type of compound GUI control and they are used in places where you want the user input and the user input is among certain fixed uh, options. A great example would be the user input for his gender. So the available options can be just a few. The drop downs are used extensively in your settings page or in your character creation screen and other places where you have some preset values and the user has an option of choosing just between them. You can create a drop down by clicking right clicking inside your hierarchy window, going to the UI tab and clicking on drop down. The drop-down game object has a few known components like the rect transform, the image component, and the drop-down component has the transition subcomponent. If you want to know about these components, I have talked about them in the previous videos of the series. Now coming to the things that are unique to the drop-down. Let me first show you the drop-down GUI control in action so you can see how the sub-components work together in conjugation to create the whole GUI control. So let's go into the play mode. The main drop down component behaves just like a button. So you can click on this button. It will create a new list which will have all the individual options that you can create directly inside your drop down component, and all of these individual options also behave just like a button, and if you click on any one of them, the main button, the topmost game object which behaves like a button, will change to that option. So if I click on this drop down button, I get a list of all the options, and if I click on any option, it changes to that option. This change you can also see inside my actual drop down game object. So when it is in the default state and you can't see the whole list, you can see there are two major components, the label and the arrow. The label corresponds to the text written inside my drop down main button, and this text is equal to the current option that is currently being selected, and the arrow contains an image component which is just a representation that you can expand this list. Now if I click on the option button or on this arrow, a new game object is created which is called the drop down list. It is basically a scroll rect, and it will have all the options listed one after the another. And when this drop down list is generated, it is generated based on the template, and the template game object, which is always off by default, its single purpose is to define the visual representation of how the newly generated list, the drop down list that is going to be generated, it defines all the parameters, all the colors and text and everything about that generated list. So let's say for example, when this drop down list is generated, I want all these individual options to be green in color. So as you can see inside your drop down list, you will have a viewport and a content game object, and inside the content you will have all the individual options of your drop down, and inside your the option, what you want to do is change the normal color, let's say to green, so that this is how uh, your individual options you want to make it in your new list. So what you will do is uh, go into your template game object, go to the your item, and this item is duplicated for each option that you have in your drop down. So if I wanted my item normal color to be green, so I will go to my item inside template and change this color to green. Since Unity draws the drop down list based on this template, so each and every time the drop down list is generated, it will fetch the data from the template game object and draw it accordingly. So now when I play the Go into the play mode, and when the new list is generated, you can see the color is based on the information that is now stored inside, that I have defined inside the template. And if you want to change the look of the drop down button, the main drop down button, you can change it from the drop down component. Let's make it green. And if you want to change the label, text or size, you can change it from here, and the arrow image from here. Now coming to the actual options inside the drop down, you define your options as a list inside your drop down component. So here are the list of three components that I have right now, option A, B and C. You can also give an optional image corresponding to each of your options. You can add a new option by clicking on plus, and reduce it by clicking on minus, and you can rename these option names, and these will be updated whenever you open your drop down list. So let's name it option 1, just to give you a demonstration. And when I now play the game, the name of my option changes. And now to hook this drop down to your code, Unity has provided us with an event on value changed, and it notifies us of any change done by the user, and it also returns an index of what option the user has chosen. So if you have a list of suppose 4 option, in this case Unity will return 0 if user has selected the first option. It will return 1 if the user has selected the second option, and so on and so forth. So using that index, you can know what is the currently selected option. I will very quickly show you how you can do this inside code. The delegate of this event type is a function which takes an int as an argument. So we will create a function like that. Let's name it void drop down input, and we will just simply debug it so that we know it's working. Option selected, and don't forget to make your function public so that it is accessible to the drop down. Now we can hook that function to the drop down in the inspector by doing exactly as we have done in other for other GUI controls. We'll go to the on value changed event, click on the plus, and then drag our game object with the script, and inside that script select our function, which is the drop down input. Now we will quickly check it inside our console. So whenever I select the second option, it will show me the option selected 1. When I select the first option, it will give me that the option selected is 0. Again, if you want to do this linking through the code, it is exactly same as I have done in my button video. You just have to use the drop down dot on value changed event and use the add listener function, and then pass your function delegate as an argument to the add listener function. Similar to the slider video, you can also give a default value to your drop downs by going to the drop down dot value and changing this value to 1 or 2 or any value that you want.